Hello everyone and welcome back to Beauty with Paula. Today actually we have here with me, because he was the closest person to have in the house for you, as I did say and I mentioned previously that I will have a special guest. Now, bearing in mind the situation, I can't have anyone else at the house, so I chose to take my husband here with us, because basically when I did start the channel I mentioned in my introduction video that I truly believe that beauty is not just about makeup and skincare and hairstyling and nice clothes. I truly believe it's harmony between the inner world and the outer world. So Darren's been a psychologist for many years. He's also a hypnotherapist and an NLP practitioner and many other titles which I'm not going to mention now. I'm sure most of you know. If you don't know, then I'm introducing you to my amazing husband here. So I brought him in basically because most of Darren's clients are basically women. So I would say 90% of them.
Yeah. Probably more.
So yes, most of his clients are women. So my first question was the biggest struggle that women have, because I also have women on my makeup chair most of the time, and I know their struggles, and I know that most of us struggle, including me at times. I'm no better than anyone else. I have my own self-doubts and inner talk and self-confidence and other things going on. But my biggest question and my most important question was, what is the biggest problem women come to you for or with? Like what are they looking for to solve? What's something you've seen across this whole 90% that you come into contact with?
Okay, well, thank you for the invitation to speak on Paula's Beauty's private beauty page.
My group.
On your group, yes. And yeah, as Paula said, I'm a qualified counselling psychologist and transformation life coach, NLP practitioner, hypnotherapist.
Many titles, basically.
Yeah, lots of hats under one jacket. And so the one thing that most of the women come to me for is that there's a general undercurrent of unhappiness, there's a lack of freedom.
Why is that?
Because humanity has got this universal problem of self-doubt, of a lack of self-love. Yet it's not until you realise where that lack of self-love is coming from, can you do anything about it. And so it's a universal problem, and so whatever people come to me for, it will always come back to the same common denominator of a lack of self-worth, a lack of self-love on some level of inadequacy about themselves, which equates to, in layman's terms, of not being good enough.
Alright.
Not enough on some level, whether that's not good looking enough, not young enough, not intelligent enough, not slim enough, not wealthy enough, whatever it is, it suggests, it suggests that on some level in your life you're not enough, which again it's a myth-filled concept, because that not enoughness belongs only in what I call an internal narrative, a linguistic construct, which is nothing more than inner dialogue that you have running in your subconscious software, which you believe as an undoubted truth, yet there's no truth to it whatsoever. And they will say to me, well, I have the evidence to support this truth. My mum said this about me, or my dad said this about me, or my teacher said this about me. And all that's doing is confirming a story that you created around a series of events which led to this belief system that on some level you're not enough. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but how does one break that? Because, for example, if I believe all my life that, I don't know, that maybe I've got a big nose, right? Or maybe I'm not feminine enough because that's what everyone said, or maybe something, I mean, every woman's got a different issue and a different struggle basically. How does one actually break that? How do you break that inner talk which gets triggered in different situations? And you know, obviously breaking it once, you think, all right, I've got a handle on this, so now I actually have self-confidence, then another situation comes and knocks you straight back in the same place. So what's the best tool, or what can you actually do to break that? I'm not sure whether it's a crazy eight or it's a pattern, but it's certainly a pattern.
It's pattern behaviour, and we're all victims to our own psychological patterns of behaviour. Yet the only game in town, as far as I'm concerned, is change comes through awareness. Greater awareness. That's the trigger, that's the catalyst for you to understand that what it is that is triggering you, or whoever's being triggered, that is the catalyst for you to be aware of something that your emotions want you to take care of. And so most women that I see for the first time, they tell me that they don't want to feel these emotions. They don't want to feel jealousy. They don't want to feel anger or vindictiveness or resentment or greed or envy. Yet it's those emotions that are trying to get your attention which need to be addressed, and not the trigger, which is nothing more than a teacher for you. Every time we get triggered, that is the teacher entering our lives to reveal to us where we're still not free. And until you become free, you're always going to be incarcerated, or in more layman's terms, you're going to be jailed by your own belief system, which is nothing more than stories that you've created based around experiences that you gave meaning to way back in your childhood when you can't remember them, which is why it's so damn difficult to break them.
That's going to make it easy then to stop them.
Well, that's the thing. Once I bring to your awareness a repetitive program.
Right, but how can a person, for example, because obviously, you know, I'll bring you here, I might bring you every week or not, or every 2 weeks, but any effective tools that anyone can have, like to use on their own, if maybe they can't go to a therapist, or maybe they're not aware of that particular program, how does one stop that pattern? Like how best to interrupt it, or actually to spot it, because you need to spot it first in order to realize you've got a problem.
Of course. Well, to use your terminology, to spot something, you'll spot something when your emotional state will let you know that you're not at your best, because your emotions are nothing more than feedback mechanisms showing you the quality of your thinking, the quality of your choices, the quality of your actions. So if you're irritated, agitated, angry, frustrated, disappointed, fill in the blank, it means that your choices are not aligning with your greatest version, and it's your emotions saying, hey, you're hurting me, what are you doing? Stop it, find another way. And it's those that keep ignoring those emotions, or pushing them, or repressing them to a place where they don't want to be looked at.
It usually comes back quite uglier than.
Well, it has to, doesn't it? You're trying to put a lid on a pressure cooker that's trying to relieve itself, and it's the emotions that are saying, hey, this is not you at your best. What are you doing? And so, to answer your question, it comes back again to awareness, to catch that moment between thought and reaction, and to realize that what you're doing is reacting to something which is triggering an aspect of your childhood that hasn't been reconciled. And that lack of reconciliation in your childhood is nothing more than a story that you've told yourself so many times that you believe it. So you've got to interrupt the pattern. So whenever something comes into your awareness that you believe is a result of somebody else making you feel a certain way.
Well, basically giving the blame away.
Yeah, when we point the finger at anybody, 3 fingers are looking back at us, and so life is actually saying to you, hey, be responsible, take responsibility for what's happening here.
Yeah, the biggest key of the universe.
Absolutely, and so we've got to become aware that, hey, what's going on here? What am I being triggered for? Why am I feeling the way I'm feeling? And then hold that statement up to the light for a deeper look, some deeper introspection. Ask the question, is that true? I mean, is that true that I'm not good enough, for instance, using that? Is that true? And you'll say, well, yes, because this always happens to me, and I go back in my past, and I can find evidence to support that. Yeah. But if that, I ask, is that absolutely true? Which means, have you always considered yourself not good enough, considered yourself a failure, considered yourself in some way not enough? And if you look through your history of your life, you'll see many times when you were a success, when you achieved something, when you did well. That in itself shows you that whole idea of I'm not good enough is, as an absolute statement, is not true. And so the moment you realise it's not an absolute truth, you can then ask the next question. What type of effect is this having on my life? Right? And of course it's not going to be a favourable one, because as long as you exist in the world where you're not enough, you're going to be always looking through the lens of life that somehow I need the external world to validate me to feel okay about myself. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, so once you've asked, how is this affecting my life? The answer will come back, of course, in a negative manner, because you're not at your best, because you're effectively talking down to yourself and confirming that on some level that you're not worthy of love, or you're not worthy of attention.
Which is completely not true.
It's completely not true, because you are completely loved, you are completely whole, you are completely enough. I'll give you a quick example.
You were talking about an example.
So I'll give you an example. As a client, for instance, if you were a client and you came to me and we'd established that on some level that you're not enough, that you're inadequate in some way, and that you don't love yourself, that you're not worthy of whatever it is that you think that you're striving towards and sabotaging yourself. This is an easy way for me to show that your thinking is erroneous.
Well, I'm a big Tony Robbins fan.
Yeah, she is. She's a huge Tony Robbins fan, and I admire Tony Robbins.
Like my God.
He's that whole rah motivational speaking. It's got its place for sure. But I want to go a little deeper into these linguistic programs that create these prisons for us. And so, if you were my client and you came to me and we'd established that on some level that you're not enough, I would say to you as my client, if I was to take a sword and cut you open right now, will I find a manufacturer's label or a creator's label that states anywhere that Paula Goya, born in Romania, is not enough?
Not really. Not that I'm.
Not really, or
not that I'm aware of.
Not that you're aware of. If I cut you open, will I find a label or manufacturer's label that says Paula Goya is not worthy of a beautiful relationship?
No, definitely not.
Will I find a label saying Paula Goya is not lovable?
No, absolutely not.
Will I find a label that says Paula Goya is not loved?
Oh, absolutely no.
Okay, so answer yes or no. Is Paula Goya a lovable person?
Yes.
Is Paula Goya capable of love?
Yes.
Is Paula Goya not loved because she's not perfect?
Of course not.
Okay. Is Paula Goya worthy of all the trappings of success in life?
Of course, yes.
So that my point being, I've just shattered your illusion that this linguistic narrative that you've been holding your whole life, that you're not good enough, is nothing more than a story that you've been telling yourself, right? So just close this off. Where does that story exist? In what form does that story of you not feeling good enough actually exist?
Well, basically in my head.
In yours, like, wonderful, okay.
In someone's head.
Okay.
But my question comes again in when you're being triggered, and let's say with self-confidence problems, that you think, oh no, who am I to do that, or to wear that thing, or to anything, right? How best to stop it? Because most of the time the brain starts to rush into that cascade of thoughts, and the last thing that comes in your head would be, oh, let me hold this up to the light and see how true it is, right?
That was one methodology. The second methodology was more scientific, where I asked you to go into yourself and ask you, does that exist as a truth that you're not enough somehow, that you're not lovable, that you're not worthy? Because we didn't close that off. We didn't get closure on that procedure.
Right.
So to get closure on that procedure, I asked you, where does that thinking exist that on some level that you're not enough? And you said in your head. Absolutely. But where in your head, in what form does that express itself in your head?
I don't really know.
Okay, so how do you articulate how you feel to the world?
By words?
By words. Boom, exactly. So the narrative that creates your disillusion of yourself exists only as a narrative, as a linguistic prison in words. Your whole belief system is nothing more than an internal conversation you've been having with yourself.
By the way, this was not planned, so...
No, this is spontaneous, which is interesting.
So what do you mean? Like, whatever is just words, semantics, basically?
Effectively, it's words have created your limited construct in which you exist in, because your vocabulary and how you articulate yourself to the world
it's very representative of one's...
It's 100% representative, because your words will align with a feeling, and a feeling will create a cascade of hormones that will align with your thinking and your words. And so every time you catch yourself saying something, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, when I say hold that up to the light, hold it up to that process that we just created and ask, if I cut myself open, is there a label from the manufacturer, if you believe in God or the universe or the great mystery or however you language God, is there a label that states on any level that you're not loved, that you're not worthy, that you're not enough, that you're not complete or whole?
Well, no.
Absolutely not, because we were all made exactly the same way, right? So we all have the same potential, we all have the same ability. We are infinite potentiality here. The only way that we get held back is by our own limiting beliefs about ourselves that has been created in childhood around the whole idea of I'm not good enough. And
which I actually think that is pandemic. Oh, that's an ironic word, bearing in mind the situation between men and women.
Sure, it's universal.
No.
It's universal. It's a human problem.
Because what my whole purpose of this is basically, like, I know most of the struggles that women have, and just to bring a little bit of light in there, because I truly believe that once we do help each other, the world becomes a better place, regardless of how little that help is. So giving more than you actually want to get from life, I believe it would make this place a much better place. So that's the whole reason why I asked for a few tools or something that can change. Would you say that you can use a physical anchor? So for example, Tony Robbins, no, I know I keep bringing that up, but but Tony Robbins says
he's taken them.
Huh?
He's taken.
No, I know about that. I'm happy with my choice. But what I mean is, if, for example, he states that you can create a physical anchor for every single time that you get lost. So for example, whenever I've got my own thoughts, which they're not the most productive.
Always.
Yeah, but when I do have them, I do have a physical anchor that I know it brings me back to my center. Now, those sort of like incantations or physical anchors, do they actually work? Because you are doing NLP, and obviously there's a correlation there.
No, sure, of course. Okay, so whatever your physical anchor is, for me, the best way to change your psychology when you're not feeling good about yourself is through movement, is through physiology.
Yeah.
Because if you look at fear, if you look at
It's
anger,
physical.
rage, they're all
Yeah.
physical, right? And so the best way to deal with something physical is get physical.
Get physical,
So-
exactly like.
So to quote her guru, is so the best thing to deal with something physical is get physical. And so if that can be something like jumping up and down on the spot, something as simple as that.
But that would be quite ironic to be in a place, get triggered about self-confidence and start jumping up and down.
Sure, or for me, the best way of calming the system down, because what's happening is when you're not at your best, you've effectively gone into survival.
Yes.
And so when you're in survival,
You've got that rush in
Yeah.
your stomach and your face gets, the whole emotion goes up and
yeah.
down.
So what's happening there on a scientific level, which I'm sure you guys will find interesting, is that you've triggered this age-old mechanism called fight or flight, where you go into survival and all the blood rushes away from the major organs into the extremities to prepare you to either fight for your life or run for your life.
Yeah.
And when you're in that mild state, or between mild and severe states of survival and anxiety,
that's not productive.
well, it's very unproductive, because all the blood's rushed away from your brain, because it's focusing only on survival, and so all your digestive shuts down, all your rational thinking shuts down.
That can affect as well weight gaining, isn't it?
Absolutely, because you are inducing massive amounts of cortisol and adrenaline into the
Stress.
system, stress hormones, and stress is a major precursor to holding on to body fat. And so most of us are walking around today in mild states of fight or flight, because we are...
Well, it is quite stressful out there, very my situation.
Especially right now, I get
Yeah.
it. So I have all the compassion in the world for people that are in that state of survival, yet whilst in it, you cannot access your resourcefulness needed to find the solutions to your problems.
So it basically got cut off. So rewind back, I showed you where you left.
Okay.
Pick up from there.
Okay. Yeah, okay, so when we are in a mild to a severe state of survival, when we trigger that fight or flight mechanism, we can't access the intelligence needed for us to find the solutions to the problems that have been presented to you in the present moment.
Right.
And so you've got to understand that particular mechanism, that process is an inherent part of all humanity. We all have it, yet it was designed to...
It's like a primary instinct.
It's very primal. Yeah, it was designed to keep us alive. It wasn't designed to keep being triggered every
like
time.
the brain.
Yeah, well, the brain, the brain was also designed to keep us safe, not designed to keep us happy. And that's an important distinction. So when we are always looking out for danger, we're trying to predict something that's yet to happen in the future. And when we're always trying to predict and control external circumstances that may or may not happen, that becomes exhausting. And that's what human beings are doing. We are using our past hurts or past experiences which we didn't like to inform on future fears or future pain that's yet to happen.
Oh, that's like a template, you mean?
It's a blueprint, it's a template, but it's a probability model. It has no truth attached to it. Yet we're all playing the same game. We're trying to predict something that's yet to happen in the future and then control the environment as much as we can. Yet here's the thing, now here's the irony.
How to break it?
Okay, but you have to understand this. Here's the irony. There is only one certainty in this universe. Uncertainty.
Yeah.
Yet our brains is trying to figure everything out into the future so we can starve off any potential pain or suffering that we may or may not experience. So talk about a square peg in a round hole. It's futile because we can't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Me and you could be sat here in a year's time and I could ask you, what's going to happen tomorrow? And your best guess will be a prediction based on what you think is going to happen.
Well, I certainly did not predict this situation
last
year.
Absolutely. So, whether it's tomorrow, and if I asked you that question, it doesn't matter where we are, it's got to be the same answer. What's going to happen tomorrow?
I hope I'm going to wake up.
Right? You hope you're going to wake up. So if you do, then to be grateful for that. But the answer, of course, is I'm not sure, or I don't know, because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, right? So we're suffering because we want to know the outcome of that which is unknowable. So again, talking about a round peg and a square hole, as long as we have that modality running in our head, that belief system that we have to control everything, which is what anxiety is, trying to have certainty in the future, in an uncertain world, we are going to be forever anxious. And it's a model of behaviour that we've learned, not only from our own experiences in life, but as a collective human experience, which is what you said, it was a template for humanity to be naturally cautious.
Alright, so I get that, I understand the mechanism. What effective tools can you suggest or can you give to break the pattern or to break the template, or something that can actually work? Because we all get how it works, or at least we are trying to get how it works. You know, everyone's listening to self-empowerment talks and to this sort of talks and this sort of talks, yet when it comes to actually do the work, if it is physical, right, you break it with something physical. What tools are good for this? What, for example, can change a program of self-doubt, self-confidence, or jealousy, or something? When, for example, when you're feeling jealous of your partner, or when you feel like you're not enough, like you feel you're not good enough as a woman, what can actually break that, you know, that circle of it's, because it's like a blender. Once it starts, if you do let it grow, it just sucks you in. How best to break it?
Okay.
That's what I want to know.
Okay, so effectively you need to change your state,
Right.
change your emotional state. I'll give you an example why that's so important. When we're in flow, when we feel good and everything in life is working for us, even when a problem arises, or a perception or a perceived problem arises, we deal with that so much better than when we're not in flow, when we're not at our best, yet the problem or the perceived problem itself hasn't changed, only the meaning we give to it. So that shows you it's not the problem or the perceived problem, it's the state that you're in which is reacting to it. And so you owe it to yourself to be in a state as best you can of productivity, of being calm and content and peaceful. And it comes back again to the awareness, because you're going to have no...
But let's say you're not aware, because for me, for example, when I get all agitated and stuff, I cannot sit down and say, all right, Paula, you have to be mindful now, you have to be aware. It doesn't... I mean, it might work for someone else.
Sure.
Personally, for me, it doesn't work. So why I ask you is because I want to know certain tools effective to break the pattern, like what to do to jump up and down, or I don't know, to breathe, or to something that can interrupt that exact pattern, regardless of what that is.
Okay, well, did we speak about breathing?
No.
Okay,
no,
so
yeah, it got cut off.
We got cut off.
We spoke, but not on...
Okay, so it wasn't recorded. So breathwork is a very powerful way of reconnecting and bringing yourself back into the moment, into the present moment. We suffer for one reason only. We are in opposition to the facts. We are resisting something in our life that's going on that we don't want to happen. Yet that usually means that we have drifted off into our psychological timeline, either into our past, where we are either guilty or resentful about something that's happened, or we are projecting into the future, into something that's yet to happen, and we lose our state of centeredness in the present moment. So by coming back to this present moment, which is the only moment you'll ever control, that's another conversation altogether, we come back to our breath, because you can't breathe in the past and you can't breathe in the future. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Okay, and so when you can slow your breathing down and really be mindful of how you're breathing, again, it's going to take at least a little bit of mindfulness. If you think that you can't be mindful ever, then prepare for pain, a lot of it, because you're effectively saying, I've been triggered by a childhood program which I have no awareness of and I don't know how to get out of it. And that's not true. We are all capable of short-circuiting our behaviour in some way or another. And so breathing is a wonderful way to come back to the present moment, and the way you do it is to inhale for a certain amount of time, hold the breath for a certain amount of time.
Like
and then,
how much?
okay, so I'm going to go through the process. And then you'll exhale for double the amount of time that you breathed in. So for instance, if you breathe in for 4 seconds, there's a little cat. If you breathe in for 4 seconds, slowly through the nose.
Yeah. Hello, you.
Hold for 4 seconds.
Yeah.
And then exhale for twice the amount. And then hold at the bottom.
We call that mula bandha in, if I remember that correctly.
That's what we call box breathing. That's box breathing. Imagine you're breathing in.
Yeah.
You're holding. You're blowing out, and you're holding.
Yeah.
Oh, she's very, very.
Right. So basically, breathing.
Breathing is a wonderful way to come back to your centre. Just remember this, however long it takes you to breathe in slowly, hold your breath for that amount of time. So if you breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds. Exhale for 8 seconds.
Yeah. And
then hold at the bottom on no breath between 4 and 8 seconds until it becomes uncomfortable, and then do another round. 5 deep breaths using that technique will turn off the fight or flight mechanism.
You hold your ears as well.
You
hold your ears as well.
I hold my ears?
Yeah.
Why?
When you're doing the breathing.
I hold my ears? Maybe there's something that your ladies understand, but did I miss something there? I hold my ears.
No, in Bad Boys for Life, he was doing that USA thing.
Who was?
The guy from Will Smith from Bad Boys for Life.
Ah! Welcome to my wife. welcome to my wife's scattergun thinking process, where I was explaining a breathing technique and she went on to Bad Boys for Life with Will Smith holding his ear.
That's how a woman's brain works.
And of course I should have known that and predicted that was going to happen. Okay, so did you understand that? Did you get that?
Yeah.
Did you get that? Okay, so repeat that to me.
It's similar to, not necessarily that, but pranayama breathing. It's something quite similar.
Yeah.
And also I have done Wim Hof breathing.
Wim Hof.
It's quite similar to
Wim Hof is a very different breathing technique.
It's like hyperventilating, and then your limbs get a bit numb, so you
but that's the last thing you want to do when you are in a state of anxiety. Yeah. Right, because Wim Hof breathing is effectively breathing very fast and hyperventilating. You're going to send a very, very distinct signal to the amygdala that something is about to unfold. That now you're ready. Now you're ready to go. That's not what you want.
Yeah. Well, basically, it's like whenever you get triggered, you breathe in for 4 seconds.
Yes.
You hold for 4 seconds. You release like through a straw for 8 seconds.
As if you were blowing through a straw, yes.
And then you hold your core muscle.
Not so much, you haven't got to do that. You just got to hold the breath at the bottom, what we call oxygen retention.
Bottom, I say like the core muscle. No?
Yeah, when you've let it all go, when you've blown out, just hold that state for 8 seconds or however long is comfortable, and you start another round. But 5 or 6 is the magic number of rounds of breathing to bring you out of fight or flight and into the parasympathetic nervous system, where the body starts to digest, recover, and recuperate.
Yeah. So breathing, you would say it's the
breathing's one is the key. As you know, there's another one called emotional freedom technique, which I've used with you to help you stop smoking, which is the tapping.
Yeah.
And tapping's very powerful.
We'll leave that for
that's another video.
In case, we'll see how this goes, and obviously I'll have some other people coming in that, but basically I did take advantage of his knowledge and brought him in. So I'm more than happy to bring him in again, in case you ladies want that, for a couple of techniques. No, it's just, I have taken advantage of his knowledge and brought him in for a few bits of help. And if you do want another one with him as long as he's here. I'm more than happy to bring him in for another video, and that's about it. I will see you in my next video, and
Bad boys for life.
that's how a woman's brain works.
No, that's how your brain works.
My brain works very strange. But anyways, until the next one, I will see you soon. Maybe, I don't know whether it's a makeup tutorial or a hairstyling tutorial or skincare or anything that basically can bring a bit of light and joy, because every little bit of help or of something good, I believe it helps. There's one less in the bucket.
Absolutely.
Doesn't matter how big the bucket is.
And ladies, keep breathing. Come back to your centre, come back to the present moment, and breathe your way out and breathe through any moment where you feel anxious or survival, or you're scared or you're fearful. Just breathe through it, come back to the present moment, knowing that this too shall pass. Everything must pass, because you're still here and you've dealt with every problem that's you ever encountered, so you know that you're going to get through this also. Okay?
Right, until the next one. Bye.
Ciao.